Okay, so hi and welcome to this industry panel of the St. John's International Women's Film Festival. Today we'll be talking going international, what to do before you go. I'm Mara Gourd-Mercado, formerly Executive Director of RIDM and now at SODEC, and I will be moderating this session. So going international has taken a whole new meaning in the current times. And I think that more than ever, having a good strategy and managing expectations is absolutely essential. So you have a great project. What do you do with it? How do you get ready for the competitive festival circuit and international marketplace? During this talk, we'll be exploring building a strategy and meeting industry expectations, from sales agents to submitting to film festival to accessing Telefilm's support services and programs, etc. And to do so, we have with us a fantastic roster of industry professionals who have been navigating the, let's call them uncertain waters of the international marketplace for a while now. And specifically in this new setting, where we're all meeting online, there are some changes and there are new approaches. So we'll also be touching on that. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our speakers. So we have Marie-Claude Giroux, advisor, event planning and programming for Telefilm Canada. Marie-Claude, if you can introduce yourself.
Hello. So I've been working with the international festivals and market section at Telefilm for more than 10 years now. And we oversee promotional and business development initiatives and events on the international scene.
Great. Anick Poirier, co-president from WaZabi Films.
Hello, everyone. So WaZabi Films is a sales agent, and I've actually been selling films for the last 30 years. So it's a bit depressing to think about that, but still it's good because at least I've seen, good and bad times. So we basically take films from all over the world, whether they can be Canadian, they can be from France, from all over the world, and we basically deal with distributors where we sell the films to, and we're actually very, very active on the film festival circuit as well. We have films lately. We've had Nadia Butterfly, which was Canada's the only Canadian film which was in the official selection in Cannes. We've had the Goddess of the Fireflies, La Déesse des Mouches à Feu, which was in Berlin Generation. We have Beans, which was at TIFF. So we cater to a whole array of films, and we like to be eclectic. We also do documentaries, and that pretty sums it up.
Thank you, Anick. And now we'll go to Ingrid Weninger, so producer director, Punk Films.
Yeah, hi, I'm a filmmaker. I've had Punk Films for 15 years. It's my production company. I've produced 15 feature films. Out of those, I've written and directed 8 feature films. And it feels like every one thing I make feels impossible at the outset, and then somehow it gets out into the world. Each one has its own journey, and I always feel like I'm kind of starting from zero. So I'm really looking forward to also receiving some tips from the panelists.
Thank you. I see that you also have, as a background, a whole strategy board there. And let's finish with Debra Zimmerman, Executive Director, Women Make Movies. Oh, you're...
Yes, there we go. Hi, I'm very happy to be here with all of these wonderful panelists. So I think if we put all of you together, how many years you've been doing it, we've got my record. I've actually been at Women Make Movies almost 40 years now, and Women Make Movies is almost 50 years old. And it's a lot of years and a lot of films. We distribute about 700 films made by and about women from all over the world. And we have about 300 films in our production assistance program, which works with women filmmakers, helping them to get their films made from concept through, we used to say from concept through completion, and now we should say from concept through outreach. And within that, and of course, with the films that we distribute, we're doing a tremendous amount of work with film festivals and film festival strategies. We're very proud that for the last 14 years, we've had a film that's been nominated or won an Academy Award by one of the filmmakers from our programs. So we're really involved with very high quality, fantastic, wonderful films, as well as emerging filmmakers, helping them get their start.
Amazing. So this is a great panel. So I'm gonna, ask a question to get the ball rolling. So I think that filmmakers more often than not have a hard time of knowing, when to take a project to the international stage, let's call it like that, even before. So you have a project, the project is great. So at what stage of that project do you start thinking about the international strategy, and at what stage do you bring that baby of yours into the international project stage? Sorry.
Well, I'll jump in, and I will just say that there's two different things there. It's when do you think about it and when do you do it.
Perfect.
I think you think about it from the very, very beginning, and I've just spent the last couple of weeks having meetings with filmmakers from the DMZ Festival in South Korea and San Sebastian and the IFP market. And to me, actually making those connections with film festival people while you're in production is a really, really important way of making sure that your film is going to be seen internationally. If it is, of course, an international film. There's lots of films that are really national films, and they're wonderful and maybe don't have that kind of market. At the same time, I'm somebody who believes very deeply that you don't send rough cuts to film festivals. There are lots of people that think you do. I used to yell or have arguments with Caroline Libresco, who was one of the Sundance programmers and on our board of directors, because she would say, we are experienced and we can watch rough cuts. And I say, if you have a film that, if you have a relationship with a festival and they've shown your work, they know you, yes, then it's okay to send a rough cut. But if not, you should wait until you've got something that you're really proud of and that you really want people to see. So I'll just, those are my two things, and I'll pass it along.
Can I ask something about that to Deborah?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes as a filmmaker, I feel like it's always a pro-con situation. But if you have a film that is pushing up against the very latest deadline for a festival, and you think, okay, if I don't send it, no eyeballs from that festival are going to get on it. If I send it, some eyeballs might get on it and say, not for us, but maybe for so and so. And if it's a good work, it's got some value. Sometimes I've found that it doesn't get accepted to that direct festival, but it has opened some pathways to people that I would have otherwise never reached. And it lands at Rotterdam, or it lands, somewhere else. So
yeah. Well, I'll just say that I think, Ingrid, that works for you when you've made as many films as you have. I don't know that it works for first-time or second-time filmmakers that don't have a track record.
Yeah.
And the other operative sentence that you just said is that it's really good, and if it's really good, I mean, I just watched a rough cut, a fine cut this morning that wasn't color corrected and didn't have sweet music and sound. It was phenomenal. It was great. It was the third rough cut I'd seen. The first one I saw, or again, I shouldn't say rough cut, the third cut I've seen. The first cut, I think it would have been a disaster if she had sent it to anybody. And there are two things. There's so many festivals. There's always another one around the corner. Everybody goes for that Sundance deadline, that Sundance deadline, that Sundance. Well, there's Rotterdam, there's Berlin, there's Nyon. There are so many other festivals that are coming up. And number two, many festivals won't watch your film again. And even more so, you want to make sure that they have a really good experience with your film, so that maybe this one's not right because it doesn't fit the subject, it doesn't fit the length, it doesn't whatever, but they think you're a really good filmmaker and they remember you for your next film. So to me, that's the, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in at this point because it's first of all, we need to qualify what is a rough cut, because sometimes a rough cut for some is not the rough cut for someone else. And sometimes I deal with producers who are saying, okay, well, the film, it's almost finished, and we haven't put the credits or things like that. So you need to be able to qualify, what you're sending. And I really agree with you, Deborah, of saying, if you are a first-time director, you need to be more careful. If you're an established director, then, we've seen a Wong Kar-wai film in Cannes.
Exactly.
2046, not to name it, and it was actually shown in Cannes. So we're in a type of, the festival business is fascinating because they have all these policies, but those policies jump as soon as they fall in love with what you have, right?
That's right.
So you need to get them, because sometimes they're saying, oh, we won't take it if it's that, we won't take it if it's gone to this and this festival, we won't do this, we won't do that. And then all of us, we won't give you an answer before X date. And then the next day you hear from them, right? So festivals it's like a very elastic, they have elastic policies, and it's a question of, if they really, really like your film, they will make it happen. We've had a documentary, Anthropocene, which went, it went to TIFF. Mongrel in Canada released it on October 5th. We managed to get it into Sundance, and it went to Berlin. And it was already out theatrically in its country of origin. So, sometimes, and, Sundance just came in our office and said, okay, we love this. And, it's usually, when are they calling me back? When are they calling me back? And they don't necessarily come waltzing in your office and saying, we want the film. So, this is the perfect, the perfect situation. Another thing about, I'm always of the mindset of, if you're showing, because sometimes, the industry, or I would say Los Cabos, like, various festivals, they want to show making, the work in progress. I always tell my filmmakers, do not do that, because as you're saying, Deborah, you know what? The first time you see a film, it's like the first time you do anything. And if you the second time, it won't be as good as the first time, because you won't be surprised by, the actors, by the setting, by, the story, by so the more you show it, the more luster it loses. So you have to be careful on that. And it's a question of equilibrium. Another point which I agree with you, Deborah, is that, when you put it in one festival, often you'll see the festival selectors are not just working for one festival. They'll do Berlin, and then they'll take on another festival in France, and they're talking to their festival programmer friends, which will say, hey, it's not for us, but maybe it'll be for you, and this and this. So I think it's worth, presenting the film. It needs to be in a good enough shape that, let's say it's temp music, but it's pretty close to to what you're aiming for. Let's say the color correction isn't final. I would, if you think you have a really strong story and you think the film is solid and it's something that you feel very strongly about, then I would take that chance. But again, we're dealing with, this is not a cookie cutter type of industry. It's film, it's creation,
and it's also relationships, right? As you were saying.
My God, very much so, very much so. But you're dealing with people that have editorial lines. Like festivals, sometimes you may have the best film ever, but they may have a similar film that you have, which they selected earlier. Like, it's not because you haven't been selected that your film that is not worth anything. And often we have producers who are totally depressed because, oh my God, I didn't get to Berlin, I didn't get to selected into Cannes or whatsoever. And then you end up having a really, really interesting path on the festival strategy, on the festival journey, which at the end of the day, you know, you're pretty proud of, because it's gone to a lot of festivals, it's been recognized, you can win prizes and whatsoever. So that's a bit my story on you know, bringing films to
Can I say one more thing?
I'm just gonna cut in, Anick, when you're talking, there is a bit of noise. So
Oh, sorry.
if you can make sure that you don't move too much. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Ingrid.
I will. Yeah.
So Brian, you have to cut this part.
You want me to repeat? I can't.
I think we're good. Go ahead, Ingrid.
I guess the one thing is, so much of this is instinctual, and it's film specific and filmmaker specific and time specific and territory specific. Like when I think of work in progress, I remember being invited to the Sarasota Film Festival, where I think I first met Deborah. We were on a panel together over 10 years ago to show my second feature as a work in progress. And there were 500, 600 people in the cinema. And it was a real work in progress in that I was at a, I would say, rough to fine cut. I wasn't sure about the beginning or the end. I wasn't necessarily sure about the sequence of the scenes. I wasn't necessarily sure all the supporting characters would be in the film. I really had questions about the structure of the film. And at the Q&A, I posed these questions to the audience, and I got incredible feedback, and I got emails, and no sales happened and no big business happened. But out of it, I met David Lowery, I met Lena Dunham, I met filmmakers that I became friends with, I forged different kinds of relationships. And if it was a matter of not going there because my film wasn't finished, or going there and showing a work in progress, for sure it could have blown up at me. Maybe people would have seen it that would have spread, you know, negative things about it. But it was my second, it was such a constructive experience. And I know a festival in North Carolina called Cucaloris, they also have a work in progress section, and filmmakers have found that very constructive. So I think this is also where it becomes a really important conversation between the filmmaker and what their intentions are, and the distributor or the sales agent or the producer. I mean, I'm a writer, director, producer, and I've always seen the artist as an entrepreneur. So it's kind of like, what is going to best service this work? And that's so subjective sometimes.
There's no recipe. Something that can work for a film wouldn't work for another one.
And I think that, you know, going back to filmmakers that are also entrepreneurs, Marie-Claude, let's say, great, your project is selected for a work in progress, just like Ingrid's film was. You know, how does Telefilm plays into that? How do you support filmmakers that want to go internationally and that want to show their projects or their finished product or film?
We try to, you know, depending, there's a limited resources, you know, for production, for development, for everything. So we try to be there at different stage with different things. So we may partner with different organization or initiative where we would support someone being selected to go present a work in progress. It can be help someone participating in development forum, co-production forum. Like we have those programs where we will help people participate to those events. And it can be at the different stage of the production. We also have all those, you know, it's difficult and different with the pandemic. Like, of course, we offer services on site with pavilion, newcomers, like some information session training, so people get to know the international market. And we have this program where we help with the travel, you know, help people travel to those events. And right now with the pandemic, you know, we're trying to see how we can change those programs, so we can better adapt since people are not traveling anymore. But I think, you know, the key to all that is the contacts that we made, no matter where we are with a film. we always have to create those links and create those contacts. And what Ingrid was saying, you know, maybe nothing came out of presenting the work in progress except for the relationship that you develop, and that's, you know, there's no price to that. That's what is important.
And I think go ahead and
go ahead.
or Deborah.
Well, I wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, you know, Canadian filmmakers are really lucky that they have Telefilm and that they can get good advice from Telefilm, because I just was remembering the Sarasota Film Festival. And by the way, I'll just, as an aside, I think that the experience that you had, Ingrid, was really fantastic. And part of it is that Sarasota, or the women's part of the Sarasota Festival, is not an industry event. So the audience that you were showing it to was a very supportive, wonderful audience. But you were at the festival and able to meet Lena Dunham and other people like me, and you know that. So there wasn't an industry part, but where you were screening, it wasn't. So that idea of really understanding what the festival that you're sending your film to, what it's about, I basically put like 3 categories of, like, you know, industry festivals, really big, really important festivals that are kind of launching festivals. Other industry, what I call like city states. There's like cities, there are festivals in every city in the world. And then there's constituency festivals, and constituency festivals are about very particular audiences, like a women's film festival or an environmental festival. But doing that kind of research is really important. Again, it's why you're so lucky you have Telefilm. You know, at that festival we were at, Ingrid, there was a filmmaker there who told me the story about having submitted her film to all these festivals. Some of them showed her film without her ever knowing that they showed it. Others like showed what she sent them, which was not actually what she would have wanted to show. I mean, just terrible stories. And there are festivals that charge really high entry fees that I always say, stay away from. Like, the higher the entry fee, generally, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but generally, the worse the festival is, because they're basically in the business of making money off of your entry fees, which is something to really, really watch out for.
That goes back to strategy. Go ahead, Anick. I was going to say that goes back to festival strategy.
I think it's really interesting because it all, you know, I'm coming from a mercantile standpoint as I'm a sales agent. And, you know, whenever producers are coming on board with us, or we're coming on board with their project, you know, at the end of the day, they're saying, okay, which festival selection did you get? And, you know, which sales did you get? So for us, there's always that, you know, going to Sarasota and showing the film to all this audience and not getting any, you know, any sales or whatsoever. For us, it would be, you know, don't do that. But on the other hand, Ingrid, you had a great experience. So it's really good. But, you know, it's, if we were working together, I would say don't do that. But on the other hand, it's all a question of what your expectations are. And you need to be true to yourself of saying, am I, you know, is it the film really for Cannes? Is it really going to Berlin? Am I being true to myself, or am I lying? And, you know, we need to be ambitious, but we also need to be very realistic. And these days, even more with COVID, because everyone's reducing their amount of films that they're putting in their selections. For instance, TIFF had 50 films. There were years where TIFF were at 320 films. Yeah. Namur were at 70 films. In the other years, they had 140. So on and so forth. So everyone's reducing the amount of films that they're presenting, making it even more difficult to come on board in these festivals. Another really, really important subject is sometimes we get approached with films where, you know, filmmakers or producers are saying, we're really proud, it went to this festival, it went to this festival, it went to this festival, and they feel like, oh my God, these are all selling points. If we are, as a sales agent, you know, seeing this, it's too late for us to come on board, because there is a hierarchy in the film festival world. It starts with Cannes, it goes to Berlin, there's Venice, there's all this hierarchy. Telefilm Canada could vouch for that, because a lot of producers sometimes will get points if a film has gone to this and this festival. So you need to be aware of that when you're doing and establishing your festival, and your festival strategy. So it's really important. That's why sales agent come into play of saying, okay, first of all, you need to know that, Cannes is happening in May. So the selections are happening. You need to have the film at least ready for January, and then you can go through Telefilm Canada, because you don't need to pay fees then, because there's a whole selection program. So we are in Canada very, very lucky to have that support from the Canadian government. And I think Telefilm's role is very important that way. So we don't have to pay a fee to register the fee to register the film in order to present it to Berlin, and so on and so forth. So they have these call to actions that they send us. But I think that's where sales agent come into play is, we need to be at the beginning of the process. So we establish together how the festival is going to go, and we'll be able to supply, let's say, these are all the festival in a year. Depending if you're a first-time filmmaker, or let's say an established filmmaker, which, you've been to this and this festival, which you'll probably want to go back to. We had examples. I'll give you examples. There was Antigone, which we represented last year, which was representing Canada for the Oscar race for Best Foreign Language Film. And Sophie Deras was very, very, very close to, some festivals. Torino, there was a German festival. Catherine Colstead, c'est quoi le festival, Marie-Claude?
Oh, that's a Hamburg Film Festival.
Hamburg, merci.
Yeah.
So there was Hamburg. So all these festivals had, hopped on the bandwagon and said, we really want your film. And some of them had very, very close relationships with Sophie Deras. Then we got a Rome invitation. Well, I was in Australia at 2 a.m, speaking to Sophie Deras and the producers, saying, okay, you can go to those festivals and show your loyalty, which is great. But on the other hand, if you want to, go higher in the hierarchy and you have the opportunity to go to Rome, I think it's a better option. Well, so we went to Rome. It got a 10-minute standing ovation. We got a sale from one of the biggest, distributor in Italy, which was Lucky Red, not to name them. And it was really a great experience. So, but there was a lot of massaging, but there was a lot of discussion, and that's how you establish a strategy. And sometimes you don't necessarily you have various different ways of seeing things, but we're into this every day. We're dealing with festival invitations. What do? Do you say yes to this? And if you say this to that, yes to this, you'll say no to something else. So there's sometimes really difficult decisions to make, and sometimes you're saying, okay, well, we'll take that chance and wait for Cannes, or and sometimes you'll never know. For instance, Goddess of the Fireflies, Déesse des Bouches à Feu. Anaïs Barbeau-Lavalette had been twice with her previous 2 films to Berlin. And then she said, well, Generation, that's the 3rd time I go to Berlin. I wanted to see if I can go to Cannes. Well, had she done that? So we finally went to Generation in Berlin. Had she waited for Cannes, we had COVID. So the film would have never gone to Cannes. So, but it's not as if COVID happens every year, but I'm just saying that
I hope so.
it's better than to have the one you have than a bird in a hand. Is that how you say it?
In the hand.
Out. So, and we really, really push that they accept Berlin. And I'm very happy again that we gave them the good and the right advice, because it was the thing to do. So, voila.
I'm curious, Ingrid, as a director, producer, how do you see the relationship between someone like you in the industry with sales agents and with distributors? Do you work with them usually for your international strategy, or do you tend to do everything yourself?
No, I would say for half my films, I was able to secure a world sales agent, and I think I've had 4 feature films with Mongrel and a film with Films We Like. So with distributors, I work as well. But I think Anick just articulated a very interesting relationship between the filmmaker and the sales agent, because for me, as the writer, director, producer, sometimes sales agent, sometimes distributor also, it's like you said, it's all relationships and it's personal. And loyalty is key for me. You know, it's I will go on the side of relationships and loyalty over business and commerce all the time. All the time, because it's a marathon run for me. I'm not just thinking about this film, I'm thinking of the next 10. You know, I look at a career like Agnes Varda, she made like 55, you know, films. So it's all relationships. With a sales agent, they can put their foot down and they can say, we have these territories, we have these rights, you can't go to that festival. And then I, as a filmmaker, can say, I really want to go. I can't. I have a deal with a sales agent that's saying no. So in this way, it becomes, you know, hopefully the team is working in the best interests of the film, which is always a balance between, you know, the heart and the head and the money and the art and all of that. It's very, very tricky. And I'm sure sometimes it can become very tense. But I do think the partnership is ultimately constructive, because when it's all one person, it's very tricky to navigate. I mean, I can say a story with my third feature, I'm a Good Person, I'm a Bad Person. I was at TIFF. I didn't have a world sales agent. I was at the industry screening, which is, you know, everybody comes in and out, in and out, in and out. I'm also acting in the film, so they have to walk past me as they file out of the film. These are friends that I've had relationships with. But still, I don't know if I would do this today, but I would run down the hall of like Scotiabank and I would say, hey, Mike, listen, I'm just curious. Like now I'm as a sales agent, not as the actor, not as the writer, not as the director. Why did you leave? And
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Let me share the information, because listen, I'm gonna get your name and email on the sheet. I'm gonna end up emailing you anyway, so I'm just saving you another email in your inbox. And literally, it was so humiliating for me to do it, but also it was fantastic because I would say 3 times, someone would say, and this is how someone would say, you know what? I've been seeing films since 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm just burnt out. It was too slow for me and I'm hungry. And I go, oh, I've got a power bar. You want an apple, a bag of nuts, a power bar? I can give you a snack, no problem. And I would pull snacks out of my bag and they would literally, I mean, I don't want to shame, I didn't intentionally shame them to walk back into the theater, but they would take my power bar, go back, probably fall asleep or whatever, eat the snack. And sometimes out of those 3 people, 2 of them walked out and said, you know what? It was way better than I thought it was. Can we have a coffee? What else are you working on? You just never know. So again, I don't know if I would do that now, but I just was like, balls to the walls. I can take it all. I'm going to meet these people. I'm going to get their feedback face to face. Bring it on.
Wow.
Ingrid, I love you. I do not take that advice. I'm sorry.
No, I agree.
That is like the most horrible story I've ever heard.
And Deborah, you work with a lot of young filmmakers.
I work
right?
with a lot. I've had filmmakers that I won't work with them because they've accosted us coming out of a screening at Sundance when we had to cover 3 films and we just could not. But we go to see the first 10, 15 minutes to know if we want to ask for a screener. And being accosted and being asked, why are you leaving, is just, it's really uncomfortable and difficult. You are so charming. You got away with it. And God bless you. Like I you know, but I really, it's just like,
don't do what I did.
Okay,
don't do this at home.
I do agree with you, and I agree with Anick, both in certain ways. You know, it is all about relationships, and loyalty is real. I remember being, and I will not say names because was a very important film festival director, a Canadian festival director, who called me and said, if you don't give us this film, we will never show another one of her films again. Like, you know, loyalty to a certain point. And that filmmaker, by the way, was so loyal to the people that had showed her films that she got stuck in that, as you know, Anick was talking about, like she got stuck in this rut, and she decided at a certain point she wanted Sundance. She'd never had a film shown in Sundance, so she took that risk. But those are things that you do later on in your career. You don't do them in the beginning. And I will also just say that, you know, I do these workshops on film festival strategy, and I'm horrified when filmmakers come up to me and say, "Oh, you know, your workshop was really great. You know, I said no to all these people because I'm holding my premiere." And I was just, and I learned something that for the vast majority of filmmakers, they don't have a lot of the choices that established filmmakers who have sales agents and who have distributors have. And short filmmakers don't really have to worry about and I'm very short, tight, but I'm talking about shorts, of course. You know, shorts don't have to worry so much about premiere status. Sundance will show a short no matter when it was made. It has nothing to do with premiere. So be careful, and I'm speaking to filmmakers, be careful about saying no to things, because a bird in the hand is definitely worth two in the bush, as Anick said. You know, it's also about what are you trying to get out of your festival strategy? Going back to what Ingrid was saying before, you know, we had a filmmaker, I loved her because she won at Sundance, she won it at IDFA, and it's Best Documentary. And then she was to have the opportunity to go to Tribeca. We also had an invite from Human Rights Watch at Film Society of Lincoln Center and AFI Docs in Washington. And her film was about a woman from Afghanistan, who was the first member of parliament in Afghanistan. And it was so important for her to get to the United States and be able to make a case to policymakers about what was going on in Afghanistan. And the filmmaker said, I don't need Tribeca. I've already gotten what I need to get. I have a distributor, but it's more important. We got Human Rights Watch and AFI to both show it the same week, which they don't normally do, and put the money in to bring, it was a lot of money to bring her from Afghanistan. We got her meetings with with members of Congress in conjunction with AFI Docs. We got her a meeting with the Wall Street Journal in conjunction with Human Rights Watch. And that also really launched the film for us as a human rights film. So it's about how the festival is going to do your work for you. Is it about your career and your reputation? Is it about getting a sales agent or launching it into the international circuit? Or is it about bolstering what distribution you have and sometimes making money, because festivals do pay fees, particularly constituency festivals that don't need premieres, even if they ask for it, they really don't. So yeah, it is. I just want one last thing, just saying what you said before, Ingrid. People that love your film should get extra points, and you should really think about going with people that are deeply passionate about your film, that will give you good placement in the festival, that will make sure that you get press, that will make sure that you meet the people that you need to meet. You know, and that could be a much smaller festival than a very big festival, but they're going to do really right by you.
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly say about the press point, you know, because I did the whole queer, like, New Fest and Out Fest, and I got Hollywood Reporter, and I got various other reviews that, again, I didn't have to pay for. I didn't have a publicist at those festivals. And again, we haven't talked about publicity, and it's also a key element at navigating the festivals.
Yeah.
But where the media is and what kind of coverage you can get. Also, to Anick's point of the industry festivals, the market festivals, the people audience festivals, and also, like, what kind of panels are there? What other filmmakers are there? What relationships might you be able to build? What kind of community in terms of, you know, I hate the term data mining, but again, you're sometimes in your bubble as a filmmaker, and then these festivals give you a reach into different kinds of communities that you can't get to, other than, now we're talking about remote attendance, but it used to be physically being there. And that was worth gold.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to jump in here because it seems like you guys are separating a sales agent from, from the producer and the director's vision of what they want. And you know what? It's not an opposition.
Oh,
It's
No.
yeah. So, but it was when Ingrid was saying, that the sales agent wanted, like, they had all these territories and they said no. What happens is when you sell a film in a territory, then it's the distributor of the territory that will decide of what their own strategy is for the territory. So it's in that way, you're right, Ingrid. What we do though is, we do a lot of art house films. So we understand that there's a vision from from the director, there's a vision from the producer. They want the best. This is almost like their child, right? They want it to go to the best school. So what happens is the sales agent, if you are true to who you are, will respect that, but will able to guide you, because it's, as I said, it's great to be loyal, but the festivals will only be loyal to the point where they like your film. The day they don't like your other film, they'll say no, right? So you have to weigh in the whole loyalty side of things. You're as loyal as you're wanting or not the film, right? Like the festival can be loyal to you. And when you explain to a festival, listen, we have the opportunity of going to this festival, we have to pass on what you're offering us. If they are, professionals, they will understand, because they understand the hierarchy. And maybe the year after, they'll be able to come with and present the film as well. And it's happened. And you know what? I think everyone needs to have a good intention about the film. And if they do, then it'll work out. And the idea is to working on the relationship you have with those festivals and explaining to them, not just saying, oh, by the way, we've accepted something else. You go to them, you explain your strategy, and then you try to have them buy into that. So that's one thing. I have to go back to you haggling at buyers going out of.
But don't say haggling.
Okay. I won't say. Let's say offering power bars to people walking out. I think I really always tell producers and directors not to show up to those, industry screenings, because I haven't done the film and I feel like they're ripping my heart out every time they walk out. Okay. So as a salesperson, having done this job, like I've done international for 20 years. So, and then sold films for 30, but every time it hurts me. So I could just imagine the people who've put all their energy, they've worked on the script for ages, they've produced it, they got the money, etc. And then they see people like, they're just like walking in and out. You don't know why they're walking out. You don't know whether or not they have other people of their team in the screening. You just don't know. So I really tell the people the filmmakers, do not come. If this is going to be really a heart-wrenching experience for you, do not do this. So I always tell them that. So I just wanted to, but you know what? It's like, if you want to find a shrink, you have to find a good shrink that will work with you. Finding a sales agent is like, it's almost like finding a shrink. You need to have someone who has the same values, who have the same respect for what you're doing. And it's almost like a marriage, and if you don't feel that, then just don't do it. And if they're saying, oh my God, we'll charge you, really a cheap commission or whatsoever, you know what, maybe it is a better thing to go and pay a little more in terms of commission, but you'll get someone which you will not be butting heads all the time, and you'll be feeling that this is a team effort. And more these days, with the challenges of COVID, with the challenges of buyers not having any appetite for anything these days, because distributors are the cinemas are closed, or if they're not closed, they don't know when they'll get closed down or whatsoever. Everyone's scared. So you need to be able to have your best foot forward. And you need to have someone on which, you're going to do a team effort. Like, you know this person and you know that other person at that place, and you all team up together and you go at it to every angle. We work like that. We are very transparent of saying, you know, we have this in this festival. This one we don't trust because you know what? They've lost a copy at the time. They're not, you know, they didn't pay or whatsoever. And I agree with, I think it's Deborah. If they're charging you, like try, you know, the sales agent will most likely be able to waiver off the fees because we have many films and they, you know, and sometimes we do end up paying because producers are saying, okay, we're adamant, we want this film in, we want this film in. If the festival is absolutely adamant on charging you, that means they don't really want your film. So you need to be careful, or if not, then you go through the Telefilm Canada and they help you with those charges. So it's really it is a gimmick a little bit sometimes. And be careful, the smallest festivals, you know, it could be on the side of a table, not professional. You don't want that for your film. It's like, you don't want to put your kid through a bad school. You don't want to put your film through a you know, sort of a on the side table festival.
And
I just,
go ahead, Deborah.
yeah. So I agree with almost everything you said, Anick, but I want to say again, you know, well, two things. First of all, to me, that's something that we offer our filmmakers. We will be the bad ones and we will say, you can't do this because it's actually not what the filmmaker wants, but I don't want the filmmakers to have to say it. And we can say it as a distributor to a festival. We can say, sorry, it's just not, you know, we've got a different strategy going. But that's just, I'm just saying that what you were saying before, it's like, you know, no, I think this is the way that sales agents and distributors work with filmmakers. I don't think it's an antagonistic thing. It's actually the way that we need to work, you know. So that's number one. Number two, with, you know, again, younger filmmakers, emerging filmmakers, they do have to pay the fee sometimes. They can't not pay the fee, you know. I would love to say that, and it's not every festival that charges fees. Many festivals charge fees that are absolutely good festivals, and they need those fees. I'm talking about the ones that have very high fees, like $175, $125. And again, if you're very experienced, you can say, I'm not going to pay the fee. If you're a sales agent, as a distributor, we can say, we're not paying the fee. But for filmmakers, you have to be very careful because they don't have that relationship and they don't have that power. As you said before, if you make a great film, all rules get broken. Everything changes. And I always laugh about that. You know, we run after films, or filmmakers run after us all the time. And then they get into one festival and it's a huge hit, and then we're running after them. So it changes, right? The power dynamic changes. And that's good for filmmakers. They need to have some power. But I just think
I'd like to touch.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Just one last thing is, it's a lucrative business to put your film in festivals as well. They pay screening fees. If they take your film, they do pay screening fees. And be careful, because sometimes people are honored because your film has been selected. Well,
yes.
It's not enough.
You know, sales agent will be able to make this a lucrative business. And sometimes you can make, you know, if the film goes in a really, really great way, it's sometimes you can get up to $1,000 for a screening fee. Maybe these days it's difficult, but you know, it's between $500 and $1,000, sometimes a little less, but there is really money to be made. So don't give your films for free if they're selected. You can make it lucrative, and that's how sales agents also make it.
Right, but that's also for feature length. That's for feature length and probably fiction films. That's not the case for documentaries, unless you're talking about $1 million documentaries that can charge those kinds of fees. So again, I just think it's so important. Yeah, it depends on the festival and it depends on the film, you know. I just think it's so important because festivals are absolutely so important for younger filmmakers. It's their way of announcing themselves to the industry and building their career. The best advice that I can give is to listen to everything that we're saying. but then talk to filmmakers who have had their films at that festival. Look at their catalog, look at their website, look at who's on their jury. Are they people that you want to see your film? Do you want to get a prize from those people? What happened to the films that were at the festival last year? Do they give awards? Did the films that got awards, did they go anywhere? Did you hear about them afterwards? You know, there are all kinds of ways that you can suss out, is this festival worth the fee that they're charging?
With
Or not.
with COVID-19, there's something I wonder, you know, with the pandemic, you feel that you know, because I've seen younger filmmakers who were invited to different festivals and then they were not sure of going because of the pandemic, but then, you know, after they refuse something, they don't necessarily have another offer. With the pandemic and filmmakers not always being able to travel, do you feel it changed everything, or it's still, you know, it has the same, you know, if you're selected, you're still selected, you know? I think with Naza Butterfly, you know, what kind of impact you felt it had, the selection at Cannes, but without any presentation, without an actual festival?
I think it was very peculiar because it was a selection without, you know, official selection, without the film being shown. But we still were able to use the laurels, and those laurels really have a very good input. Yeah. I mean, impact. We were able to do a French sale. So had we not had those laurels, we would have not sold the film. So that's one thing. I think it also, you know, there's a lot of selections from very high level festivals that are coming and are to be announced on this film. So we're very, very happy because let's say, you know, I don't know from a sales perspective how this is going to come, but I do feel that it has helped. And I think the festivals that are coming in will be able to put them on a poster. We'll be able to talk to the buyers that, you know, has been selected in this and this and this. And I think it's just helping build the career of the filmmaker of saying, you know, I was at Busan, I was at, you know, this other festivals. And I think this, you know, they're happy that the team is very, very happy. Of course, they're sad that they weren't, you know, the film didn't, you know, they weren't physically in Cannes and the film didn't get shown in Cannes, but it is being shown in Busan. And, you know, it's what we're seeing is there's a lot of hybrid festivals that, you know, they're showing to limit amounts of audiences and then they're putting them online, which is a bit challenging, but we're accepting that. It depends. We're making festivals sign a non-disclosure agreement that it's geo-blocked. We have to be very careful who they're using as a platform because it is coming into the business. It's like this is VOD almost in terms of rights and whatsoever. But we decided that the films we have, it's really important that they get that status and that selection and that sort of proof of acceptance from those festivals that are really, you know, they're staffed up with people that know films, they know their cinema, and if they're selecting them, that's a proof that the film is worth it, you know. So we're happy with this, but obviously if the film had gone to Cannes and everyone was in Cannes, we probably would have had a better, you know, it's still at the beginning, but we would probably have more sales for sure.
And I think if I could offer one thing, the last project I did was called 19. It's 9 women filmmakers in different parts of the world: South Africa, China, the United States, Germany, Spain, and across Canada. We made the films in isolation in April. The film is finished now. It's a linear feature, 85 minutes. But now, knowing that it's going to predominantly be seen online, especially at the beginning of 2021, we've made a non-linear interactive version of it so that festivals like the New Frontier Lab or different, I think festivals are kind of opening up their program, knowing that it's not just necessarily a link, geo-blocked to a number of people. What else can the audience be offered that they wouldn't necessarily, what other kind of event, participatory, immersive, interactive element could be offered since they are not going to be in a cinema watching it on a big screen. So as filmmakers, we're definitely, I mean, we're collectively thinking about these things.
I
I
think
think it's
that
great because you're being.
I was just going to
I'll
say,
just say too.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's great because you're being creative about it. So good for you.
Deborah?
I was just going to say that I think, yes, of course, and it's really important, and this move towards kind of immersive and interactive programming started before COVID. You know, I remember before Jonathan Demme died, he actually came to our little theater around the corner from my apartment, the opening night of his film in New York, because to get people out of their apartments in New York, you filmmakers as big as Jonathan Demme was, had to be there opening night. Crazy. So this is a progression. I think the biggest problem right now in terms of festivals is that there's no buzz. There's very little buzz. So it's great when you've got the laurels, and that's really important. Of course, you need that status from those bigger festivals. But what I see is that for most festivals, you know, you don't have that kind of, this film is really great. Oh, buzz, 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 buzz. The kind of press that you get. It's now just starting. It's kind of like the new normal. It's just getting to the place where it's become more normal to have these virtual festivals. And I think the ones that are choosing to have less films, I think it was very smart on Toronto's part, because the films that were screened, actually, you had an opportunity to kind of have a sense of what was there. If you're at the event and you're going to parties and you're talking to people and you're hearing about these films, that's where that whole thing happens. And that is what has really been missing, at least for the filmmakers that we have whose films were at Sundance really suffered after, because Sundance was the last, just about the last festival, Rotterdam, Berlin, but that in the US, the last festival before the pandemic hit. And the spring was horrible for them because there was just none of that. But on the other hand, the positive thing is that festivals actually are in some ways less important, because you can create that same kind of screening that festivals are doing. You know, you can align with all kinds of groups and get your film screened to the kinds of people that are actually really important to see your film. That's a whole other conversation. But I think it's important for filmmakers to realize that there are many, many ways that they can work within this pandemic that's incredibly positive. Being able to do Q&As and not have to be at the festival, what an opportunity. All these filmmakers I met with for the last 3 months in pitching forums from all over the world, I would never have been able to be in Korea and San Sebastian and New York the same week, you know? So let's look at the silver lining to this and figure out how to use it the best for filmmakers.
Yeah, I agree. It's an incredibly kind of vital time for innovation. Just an example is Miranda July with Gajillionaire and what she's doing on Instagram. I mean, she's just taking that on and is doing a lot of DIY kind of grassroots social media promotion. Now, again, it's Miranda July. It's not a first-time filmmaker, but you know, there's countless examples of really, as opposed to putting on a chicken outfit and standing on a street corner, we've got social media now, and
you got Instagram.
There's just like a lot of territory to mine, and there's a lot of public and audience to sort of build direct relationships with, which I think is really exciting.
And I think we'll end up on that note, an exciting new way of building relationships and doing promotion for your film. So I want to thank you all for being here today online from wherever you are. And thank you to the St. John's Women's International Film Festival for having us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Great to talk with all of you.